All right, so someone had a request for a presentation of Parks on the Air. I haven't been active recently with Parks on the Air, but I've done a lot of it, and I put this presentation together back in 21, and I've updated it. So here we go. What is POTA, or Parks on the Air? First of all, it's not a contest. It is a nonprofit organization that supports the use of amateur radio in state and national parks. It's an awards program for operating in designated states and national parks. So again, it's not a contest, it is a program. It's an awards program. And if you guys remember a while back in 2016, there was this whole ARRL National Parks on the Air where they had operators go out to different national parks and try to collect national parks, do clean sweeps and stuff like that. So some people got together and said, why are we doing this just for 1 year? Let's do it as an awards program all year round. And it's been a big hit. There's other OTA programs. You've heard of SOTA, which is Summits on the Air, IOTA, Islands on the Air. They do all different types of OTAs now. It is an international program. The United States is not the only one involved. I see, I have not been able to get in contact, but there's a lot of Japanese stations that come on. I've gotten Spanish stations before from their different parts. So one of the things you're going to ask is, you will see when you start getting involved, is they call them references. References are basically national parks, and this conversation is U.S. centric. I'm not going to get into what they do in Brazil or in England. National parks, national monuments, state parks, state wildlife areas, and state game lands. Pennsylvania has a ton of game lands that are all available. Local parks are not included. It's just, it would end up being too much. I mean, I would love to have Midland Woods be there, or actually Alt Park, because Alt Park is literally down the street from me. However, it's just too big of a program. Don't ask. People ask that all the time on the forums and on the Facebook site. No, they're not going to add it. It's just there's too much. There's a lot of parks made available. Go and pick out one of those. So, I'm going to ask the question, where can I activate locally? So this here's a map. I believe it's a 30-mile radius of Cincinnati. All those little yellow dots on there represent references that you can go and activate. You can visit that website, and it will then ask you if you have access, if it can have access to your location, and if it does, it will zoom into where you're at. You can zoom out and see all the different references. Click on those little yellow guys. I'll show you in a little bit, and you'll see information about the site. So you enter the DXCC entity, so the United States at the top. Be aware it changed recently. It used to be K-land, now we're US. So you used to see all the different references at K-dash, the KD8, KD8. They changed that to US. And then just human.
How many are on in that circle? What about?
I don't know, I haven't counted.
He didn't count, okay.
Probably about 25 needs a little. And I think actually that needs to be updated.
I couldn't see any yellow dots there.
Oh, you know what? So let's see. This is the website.
What is the website?
It is POTA.app. I have to admit, I do not know how friendly it is for people with vision problems, but it is. There's a lot on it. Like this is a visual. So again, it'll ask you. Allow me to take a look, but I will tell it. And there you can see the different entities within the region. So the one right here, William Howard Taft, US 0875. That's William Howard Taft Memorial Site, National Historic Site. So you can click on it, and it will then show you all the details. There's not a lot of details on here. You can go to the website. This one actually is pretty decent. So it'll take you to William Howard Taft site. You can bring up a map of how something look at. If there's no.
What was the location of that site?
That's an Auburn Hill. Mount Auburn. Yeah,
Auburn.
Yep.
Away from the Christ Hospital?
Yep, literally across the street from Christ Hospital. Yep, right at the very top of the hill. It's the house where William Howard Taft. I grew up with that. It is now a National Historic Site. I highly recommend you visit. It is fascinating. It was really yeah. So it talks about different things you can do, where it's located. It's not just US, but it's Ohio. Latitude, longitude coordinates. Be aware the latitude and longitude coordinates, when there's things like trails, they're meaningless. Some of these trails are hundreds of miles long, putting latitude, longitude rules, and this is going to help that. We'll talk a little about early and late shift, website, access methods, automobile and foot, activation method, automobile pedestrian is active. First activated in 2016 as part of the ARL's program. Urban activation, limited space and parking. So, and you'll see who the park leaders are. No, I'm not on the list. I do not act. I have a tendency to go out to different parks. I don't want to try and activate a park too many times. But then you also see different activations. You can go and take a look at it. So it is an awards program. It's not a contest. Some people say that you can't use the warp bands. There's nothing wrong with using 30 meters. I've used FT 30 meters and CW 30 meters just fine. It is not a contest. It is an awards program. There's no end date. There is a beginning date, but there is no end date. So it's just like you could get DXCC on any one of the bands. It's the same thing. It's just an award. You'll hear people complain and say, well, it's a contest. Not really. I mean, people will try and boast that, hey, I got more at this park than something else, but that's just a boast. You're not going to get an award for that. You're going to get an award for 100 activations. I'll talk about some of these awards here in a minute. It's not a contest. There are both hunters and activators. The hunter is the guy who sits around at home in the car, even out in the field, trying to make contact with the person, the activator at the park. So it's the two pieces. Park to park means that you're both in a park. And there are award programs for both the activators and the hunters. Four main types of awards. There's your standard awards, your advanced awards, geographic awards, and then special awards. Standard. So yeah, you get a bronze for 10 different reps. And this is the same for activators and hunters. So if you are hunting and you get 2 to 10 different references, you will get a bronze award all the way up to sapphire. Truth be told, if you're even mildly active on hunting, you'll get that sapphire very, very fast. It is a very active program. There's lots of people out all the time. Truth be told, it's actually kind of nice when you're trying to test a new rig out. You're going to test a new antenna configuration. I do that all the time. I'll throw an antenna up in my backyard. I will go and take a look at the website. Go to the website and you see ask for activations. My antenna I'm going to be looking for today. Let's schedule activations. They changed the website recently. You can go onto the website and it'll show you which ones are active. You can actually sort by band and by mode. So you can actually say, I want to hear CW. And if you listen to the guy, you'll know whether you're hearing him or not. On that antenna set. I do that all the time for testing antennas to make sure I can hear. Yeah, so it's the same between activator and awards. Then there's advanced awards. There's all different awards. There are unique references. Rapid deployment radar awards for people who try to go in there, activate, and get out. And an activation is a minimum of 10 contacts from within the pod. You get late shift awards, early shift awards, geographic awards, with the all states award, worked all states, worked all references. That's kind of hard, especially since they just added a bunch of references recently, the past 2 years. Repeat offender awards. So there are some people that know each other very well. They've never met face to face, but they basically, there's a guy in Virginia, he's kind of hunted me for a while because I was getting a lot of the parks in Southwest Ohio, and he was trying to work all Ohio. So I mean, he even requested, he sent me a Facebook message, hey, can you go out to, yeah, sure, I'll go do that next week. Operator awards and park to park awards. So the park to park awards means that I'm sitting in the park, you're sitting in a park, we have a QSO. We just got a park to park. And it adds his total with a good award there. Special awards, support your park events. Now this one, I like to do these. Meetings it's a weekend, it basically starts Friday evening into Sunday evening. And they do it once a quarter for each season. So there's a spring, there's a summer, there's a fall, there's a winter. Sadly, it doesn't interact with those POTA, so I can't get those points. It's kind of fun. It's a repeat once whatever you do. Just basically when you get your 10, submit it, and there you go. Outstanding operator awards. There are people that are listening and they will basically say, hey, this person was really doing a good job. Kind of like the good operator awards that you're around. 6 meter sit pack awards. I have no idea what that means. I've tried that, read about that one. It's really confusing. Then you got N1CC awards, Sky, who's very big into with portable operations. Kilo awards getting 1,000 or something. New Year awards that you want to use. So this is a non-inclusive list of players you can activate locally, kind of heading out to an extent. So, yeah, William Taft, the Little Miami State Park. That was a linear park, so that one gets interesting. At bottom two, I'll talk about that one in a minute. Little Miami State Park, you can activate anywhere on the trail. They designate some of the parking lots, like Lovewood has a parking lot there. We actually have activated Morrow. I can't say Corwin. Morrow. Yeah, there's the old train yard at Morrow is a parking lot which is considered part of the trail. So we set up and operate it there. That was kind of fun because it's a linear park, so there's a lot of different spots that you can do. The bottom one there, I just added that one. Lewis Park National Historic Trail. That is a trail, and unlike the Little Miami State Park, it's within a state. This one is multiple states. It also is in this region, the Ohio River. So as long as you're within 100 feet of the Ohio River, you are in that park and can activate it. It could be Indiana, Kentucky, Ohio, doesn't matter where. It doesn't even have to be in a park. So you can go down to the Cincinnati Central Riverfront, and as long as you're within 100 feet, because it's a public location, I'll talk about that in a little bit, because it's a public location, you can activate from it. Even though it's technically this is Smale Park or Bicentennial Commons, it's a local park because it's this is an overlay, and on top of it, you can go there and play. And I've done it before. It's kind of cool. There's a park on the side of that one too. There's a bunch of soccer fields there.
Can there be more than one activation in a park?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, so like Little Miami, I've done that before. I've actually activated with another person at Little Miami. We're in the same park together. We were at Morrow. They're actually in Morrow too. They were at the fire station. So yeah, it's all yeah. There's nothing wrong with it. Actually, with the first year I did it, Julia and I did a 2-meter because there's a guy over there at Little Miami. He was operating at the other end. It was at not the Little Miami State Park. It was Eastport. We were in Eastport. We were in Eastport, and we saw him as we were pulling up to set up. He was setting up the parking lot. So as we were leaving, we went over there, and he had a 2-meter. I had a 2-meter. We did a contact by a 2-meter because we couldn't. I mean, we tried to get ground with it, but it just wasn't.
The 2 meters is good too.
Anything.
Okay.
There are certain limitations. I'll talk a little bit about the rules, but like one of these, you can't go through repeaters. You can announce on the repeater that I'm going to be on the 2-meter call frequency, calling CQ from a park. That's fine. You can solicit that way, but you can't actually do it through it. You can't do it through satellites. You're allowed to use it through satellites.
Cesi.
Yeah.
So if I'm looking at it right, Houston was, there's one location you need to sign away. To meter across that lake, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with doing that. Yeah.
That's one location. That's park to park.
Yeah. Technically, it is a park to park, even though you're in the same park. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with doing that. That doesn't break rules. It gets even more interesting because technically there is I think I got it here. Yeah. US 1959 is Houston Woods State Park, and US 9413 Houston Woods State Nature Preserve. You could technically do a twofer. If you set up inside the nature preserve because it's within part of the park, it's called a twofer. You get both of those, then you get double credits.
Maybe activate the station.
No, that's not, actually, I think you can because it is on part of
Part of the.
it is in the park. Yeah, yeah. So you see, there are a lot of people who do that. They try to do what are called 2-first, 3-first, and 4-first, and try to be in a location that is in multiple parks at the same time. The other one is I've done this one. I've done it in East Ford State Wildlife Area. That is on the far east end of East Ford Lake State Park. Some people will say that it technically isn't because it's technically when you look at the one map, it's on the one map, it's on the other. A lot of this is the honor system. I'm in the park. It's the wildlife area within the park. I'm calling Sleaford. No one's going to go out there. I mean, someday, hey, well, you can't do that because the map doesn't show it. I'm like, I have a reference to a map that they actually hand out at the park. And it actually shows you on the map. It's got the hash marks going this way saying it's a state park. And the hash marks going this way is a wildlife area. And you look at that wildlife area, it's got the hash marks going both ways. So I'm like, I'm going with that. There are a lot of debates about what is it, isn't a 2-fer and 3-fer.
Well, keep in mind, the North Country Trail also goes through East Fork and some of the other parks around here.
Yes, I have not explored those. Yeah. Yeah, like the Little Miami gets really, really close to the one we were just talking about. It's no longer. Logging, how do you log it? Any software that can output an ADIF file. You can submit your logs via the website. It used to be more complicated. It is now really super easy. You just go under, you log in, go under your call sign, just drop down, you just go and say, my logs. And you literally drag and drop it right there. Drag and drop your ADIF file, and it will process it within seconds. It is great. It used to be before you had to actually mail the back, put your local coordinator, they had to process it for you. It's all automated now. It's wonderful. And if you make a mistake, you can just upload it and go correct. The people that maintain this file, the website, it is a great website. Lots and lots of great resources. Some key things, though, which you want to make sure that you have it set up for. Some of the fields are required. You need to have a call sign in there, your band, your mode, date and time. And then these are good to have. The operator, my sig info, and then sig info. So you can see the red ones over here are some of the best ones. So my sig info is where I'm located. And notice the K on there. That was because this was before they changed everything from K to US. So I have my station call sign in there. I have the operator. So when we do the Ohio State parks on the year, we will have the station call sign will be K8SCH, but my operator will be KD8OOB. K8SCH will get the credit, as do I, because I'm the operator within that station. They allow that. And then George, when he logs his, if he would put his in there, he could put his call sign in there. And K8SCH, the club will get it for the OSPATA and for the awards program in the POTA.
When's this spot again?
It's in September. It's the weekend after Labor Day.
It's all around good.
I don't know. You talk. That allows us though to the club will get the contact, get the credit, and we individually get the credit. And then the sig info is where they are. So if you want to do park to park, it'll automatically pick up the park to park. If you put in what in the sig info, who you're talking to, what park they're. So there are some guidelines. I kind of hinted at some of these already. The POTA day is 0 to 24, 2359Z. You need 10 QSIS for an activation. Even if you don't do the full activation, please submit your logs, because other people on the other side, they are looking for that. It basically, it's the same thing as how the league does with the Welcome to the World. It tries to match things up. If it sees the things matched up and it sees your sig info, their sig info, it'll be park to park. It does everything automatically. You don't have to apply for anything. So make sure you do upload your logs, regardless of whether you've done the complete intended or not. You can also mix. I do that all the time. I will go out there, I will set up an FT8, and I'll do my 10 on FT8, and then I'll switch to side deck because I'll look at the top. That way I get my 10, I feel comfortable with myself, and there's no pressure that I get activated until I'm done. There is no specific USO exchange. You'll hear some people have a set rhythm, a set pattern, but there's nothing specific. You don't even need to call CQ POTA. You can just call CQ, and if people contact you, you log. You don't have to tell people. You say CQ POTA, you're going to get people. You will get contacts. When it's empty park to park, call park to park. You'll hear that a lot. KD8OOB park to park. Make sure you put your call sign park to park. Don't do what some people do with the whole park to park. Those are the same people who are trying to break a pile up and just put the end of the call sign up. Don't do it. But you will usually hear park to park is usually giving preference over everybody else, because a lot of times I will do it as a preference because I don't know what your power is. If you're 10 watts and a wire hanging out there on a mountaintop, bands will change. I'm going to get you as fast as I can and get you in there, as compared to the guy who's sitting there with running a kilowatt through his beam antenna. So you'll get a lot of tap. I call it park to park. Not everybody does. That's how I operate. You must be completely within boundaries of the park. You cannot have your antenna on one and your car someplace else. You have to have everything within the park. Everything. If you have like the Ohio River or the Little Miami Trail, 100 feet. You'd be surprised how small 100 feet is when you're trying to hang up a 40-meter conduit. One part per law, so they recommend that if you're going to, so for example, if you are doing these you're doing two references at the same time, so you're at Eastport and you're at the wildlife area, send in two logs, create two separate logs. I just basically do the one log and then I go and make a copy of it and do a global search and replace for the one reference for the other, there'll be two logs. I'm done with it. Multiple days are allowed per log, so if you're out on a camping trip, you can go out there all weekend long and then just submit your one log. Know the park rules. This is very, very important. We are guests in the park. I know the parks are ours, but we are sharing them with everyone. Please be courteous, please be kind, please listen to the rangers. I personally beg forgiveness than ask for permission because there's too many people out there that don't know what you're talking about. I don't address it directly. There is a rule in the FCC regulations for ham radio about how we can have to have a study done to set up within a national park or a monument. This has been ruled outside of that because this is not a permanent installation. The FCC has said, no. We're talking about if you want to set up a repeater permanently in a park, you have to do a study, work with park rangers. If you're setting up an antenna for the day or for the weekend, no, it's okay. They're allowed to do that. But there's some people who will say, hey, you're not supposed to do that. Go talk to the rangers. Sometimes you talk to the rangers and they don't know what you're talking about. Some of them are fascinating. I've met some rangers who are fascinated by it. Love the fact that we're out there broadcasting about our park and talking about the park. Some of them don't like it because they can just take it resources people want to go. Listen to the rangers. Always listen to the rangers. Do what they ask.
Or hurting trees.
Don't hurt any trees. I'll talk a little bit about it, but yeah, hanging up in trees is questionable. Putting holes in the ground, questionable. One of the things I do is I have a tendency to use a tripod and I bring empty water jugs with me and fill them up with water and use those as weights. Because my antennas are not that big or that heavy, so it's usually, unless it's a windy day, I'm usually okay.
Have you ever been asked to leave by a park ranger?
I have never personally known. I've had park rangers come up and ask me questions. I've had them give me a stink eye, but never asked to move. I even had a 80-meter antenna deployed way up high in a tree and didn't say it.
Do you have like a piece of paper about the eventually give the park?
Some of them I do, sometimes I don't. It kind of depends on what I pack. But I've never been bothered. No trespassing. That's the other key thing here is it has to be on public property. So there are people that do own property within some of these wildlife areas. If that is privately owned, you cannot operate. So technically, you cannot operate from your house if your house is inside of the wildlife. But you have to step out on the public land.
So even if you have permission.
Correct. Which gets really interesting if you're trying to merge yourself with summits on the air because some of the summits are talking about private.
So if like down by Burnback Park along the river there. they
Yeah.
have, like, outlets there.
Yeah.
That you're allowed to bring it out and go forward.
100 watts on the air?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing stopping you. Nope. Yeah, Fairbank Park's one of those places I have listed on my places to go for the Lewis Park.
Spray still control.
So the difference between POTA and OSPATA, KY POTA and POTA, basically POTA is all year round, 24/7, any POTA reference, all bands, all modes, no exchanges. Ohio State, Kentucky, and Indiana, there are one day a year or a weekend a year. OSPATA, I believe that they are changing it this year, and I think they're going to allow Vision and CW this year, 2025. But typically it's only been sideband. Kentucky, I've operated that, and they allow both sideband, digital, and CW. I haven't really done Indiana POTA. For some reason, it's been happy. OSPATA and KY POTAs are very specific bands only. They have specific QSO exchanges they're looking for. In POTA, though, I do know this only requires 5 QSOs to be considered active. Kentucky is a little interesting because you have so many Kentucky parks. I think Ohio's the same way. You have to have so many Ohio parks before they can consider an activation versus a checkpoint. Yeah, because that's Burnaby in the past. Yeah, but it's Burnaby in the past.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have an 80-meter antenna, I wasn't able to get anybody on Northeast or Northwest Ohio. So everybody was outside my skips. I'm sorry, they were all within my skips. So what you're going to need as a hunter, you just need your POTA login, and as an activator, you need your POTA login, the rig, antenna, power supply, and logging, something. So what type of activation are you talking about? You can park in, I've done this before, I've actually put, so for the Eclipse party we had last year, I basically went to a POTA park, set up an antenna on top of my car and operate from there. You can wheel your RV in there. I've seen a lot of people do this, a lot of those RVers out west. They will have a big antenna. They will put beam antennas on the back of their RVs and have a 100-watt rig in there, and they will call all night long. I've seen people pull up the cars. I've seen people with trailers. I've seen people with motorcycles. There's a guy, he wasn't there this year, but he's been in the convention in the past where he's done it by bike. Camping, RV, camping. The rules are usually a little more lax about putting stuff in the ground, stakes and whatnot in the ground, so if you go into a campsite.
Makes sense.
The one thing you have to be careful though is a lot of camping sites have quiet hours. So like CW Digital is usually pretty good, but sideband might not be so good. I haven't experienced this, but I know some people, a lot of the RF coming off of generators from other RV campers has caused a lot of local noise. Park bench and picnic table, that's what I do a lot of. I'll usually go and I'll pull up nearby and I'll lug my stuff out to a nice comfortable bench in the shade. Also hiking and walking in. There's a spot I want to go to in central Kentucky that is a POTA and a summit that's on the air site. The POTA is everything, but the summit, you have to climb onto a specific spot. So I want to actually do the backpack. Rig type, you can have your base rig at 100 watts, but how are you going to supply the power? Or you can go with a portable rig, some little portable QRP rig. I use QRP rigs all the time. You have to watch out there. There's a lot to take into consideration. You're not getting a lot of power out there, so you have to have an efficient antenna. The bands have to be fair. Probably want to stay out the side. I've done it, this side band. That's why I said I would usually do FT8, get my 10, and then maybe I'll get a couple on the side band. What type of activation? Continued, we got, you can do phone, sideband, even at 2 meter, I've done FM, nothing stopping you. I've heard people do it on AM, so nothing stopping. CW. Well, like I said, you can do satellite. I've never done satellite. I do know people that have and have been successful. Others, whatever you can come up with, as long as it conforms to the rules, go with the rules.
All right.
So yeah, your battery, what type of power? With the QRP rigs, I use battery. Some people use solar. I've not really experimented with the solar stuff. People also use a generator. I think that when I'm talking about power supply though, Reed, is a source of some type of energy to power the radio. So in our traditional 100 watt base rigs, you need a dedicated power supply that's going to be able to supply the amperage at 12 volts to be able to kick out whatever wattage you're trying to pump
So
out.
basically, a total of 38.
Right.
Yeah.
If you're too low in the amperage,
Yeah.
then you end up with you have to put lower your signal strength or signal power out, or you're going to end up shutting the radio. You're going to brown out the radio. So like in field day we use generators. Field day is kind of like a POTA in that we're out at a park in our case, but it's not a park for this reference. But we do use generators. We do use solar. We don't really use battery. I use battery almost exclusively for my parks up there. So yeah, what's that of antenna? Dipole. One of the things I have to think about with the dipole though is you need 2, maybe 3 supports on it. What are you going to use for supports? Trees are the best thing, but a lot of parks don't like trees.
Yeah.
One of my favorites is the NFET halfway. I use it as a sloper, which only requires 1 support. I usually just support one end. What I'll do is I will actually take one of those fishing lines, the crappie poles, and I have one that's like 20 feet. I basically bungee it to the chair, stretch the thing all the way out, and I have my feed line running down to the radio, and I just have that sloping out in the direction I want to sit. Yeah.
You ever tried to convert a dipole?
Yep.
To 1%?
I've tried that, but I found the NFET performs a little bit better because I like doing multicam.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, I do. I'll show you a little more specific about my equipment. But I do have a hill topper that does instead of just the yeah. My favorite though lately has been a vertical. I have a Wolford recoil and set up as tripod mode, or actually I love the stake mode. I got this stake about that big that I just pound into the ground, and unless there's a high wind, it's not knocking anything over. But you have to think about you want to make sure it's guide, you don't want to get knocked over. But again, like I said, if you're going to do tripod, get yourself an empty water jug, fill it up with water when you get on site, and just tie it to the base there. So here's me and my equipment. So I usually do two different rigs. I have an 817ND and I have an Icon i705. I really have been liking the 705. It interfaces so nice and easy with the digital that I don't really have, it works just great with this laptop. The power sources, I have two different batteries. I have a 20 amp SLA battery box. It is a big chunky marine battery. I think I've actually shown the battery box as part of our maker there. I also have an 8 amp LifePro battery. Well, I love that battery because that thing's about yay big. It's probably about 3x2x3. Charge that thing up and it'll last me a couple hours when I'm using it at 5 watts or even 10 watts.
It doesn't like
That, yeah, exactly. It doesn't add that much weight to my backpack. Yeah. As compared to the SLA, which is, yeah, sealed lead acid, and it's heavier than. So my antennas, my latest favorite, particularly the KM4 ACK491 NFED Wolf River coils. That one's been my favorite lately because I like to configure it. I have a Nano VNA, and I love to do other types of things. So that I actually have holes that I put the coil higher up to get better efficiencies. So to being band hopper. So this one I do use as a inverted V silver. I'll just put the one straight up and have it sloped down. And the band hopper is nice because it does allow you to switch bands. We use that at field Winterfield. You can. It's not too hard to shift the bands. So basically, they have little alligator clips. You unclip them and it shortens your antenna. So you have full 80, 40, 20. And QRP guys, tri-band vertical. I've used that one. That was kind of fun. And then those who infant halfway. And I just bought a book at Hamvention. Salty Dog, he put out a book, and he's a POTA guy, and he loves experimental antennas. I'm looking forward to getting into the book this summer and just putting a bunch of different antennas together, just getting them shot. So for logging purposes, I don't do paper anymore. I either use hand toothpick Polo or MRS on Android. Both those are Android tablets I take out with me. They are nice because if you get an internet signal on your phone and I tie in the Android into my phone, it will actually do the Polo lookups for you. So if you're doing a park to park, it'll actually put the reference in, it can put the call in, and fill it in. The Polo is nice, it's new, and the guy's been updating it frequently. MRS has been my go-to for years, but he has not been maintaining it lately, so I've dropped off. They're both pretty functional. The nice thing is at the very end, too, both of them will spit out a QSO showing you all of the different contacts that you made. Also, different benefits.
Quick question, right? We make these slides, but you set up email or something.
Yeah, I can send a link out to it.
Slides.
Yeah, because they're just Googling. So one of the other things I add, insect repellent. These are really these are these essentials that you don't ever think about. Camping chair and table. You may not always get the campsite or the picnic table you want. Hat and sunscreen. There are a lot of times a vertical antenna does best in the middle of the field. And I only have, you don't want to have too long of a run. A canopy or a tent. I don't use that frequently though. Tuner with patch cables. I have had a problem where I was doing FT8 and I did want to go down to 80 meters to get some little contacts for, and I did not have my tuner, I did not have my patch cables with my tuner, so I wasn't even getting down to 80. Multiple coax feed lines. I've had that problem before where it's the whole either make sure you have multiples. I've had it where one of them has broken.
Yep.
Which was too weak.
When I filmed it, I had a bad day.
Yep. So always make sure you carry two, they're not that heavy. If you're going to launch a tree, you have to have some type of antenna launcher.
Rocket won't work for that.
Rocket won't work for that. If you're going to do an antenna mess, make sure you have guys, make sure you have your weights or tent pegs. You don't want to have them fall over.
But yeah, but I've experienced that.
Headphones I once I forgot the headphones and it was a bear trying to work these people. Especially with you, like I said, you're going to go out there and you're going to call CQ POTA and you're going to get everybody and their brother trying to get a hold of you. And sometimes just trying to get that signal out that.
And the other thing with the headphones is you might be in a public place.
Yes.
You don't want to bother everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah, most of the time the mark rangers are going to bother you if you're not making any noise. Well, the other thing too is one time, Julie, you were with me when we did the East Fork, or no, we went to Stolen. And there were a whole bunch of motorcycles just cruising the park. while they weren't that loud, it is very disruptive when you're trying to listen to somebody, and yet you really need headphones with. And if you're bringing a partner, second set of headphones and a split. It's a lot more fun if you can both listen in rather than just one. Extra pen and paper if you're going to be do it well.
What about like first date, date?
Yes, since most of my parks have been pretty local, I haven't really been too worried about that. But yeah, that's. But yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So, as a hunter, do you get credit when the activator uploads the log? Okay.
Yeah, you don't have to upload anything. As a hunter, you don't have to upload anything. You just make sure you got the QSO with them, and then they will upload it for you. When they do their upload, you will get credit. So you do have to have a login on the POTA site. If you don't have a login and you hunt, you're not going to see anything because it's not going to be able to match it with the. It is really good though, if you do make a contact with somebody and you don't have a login and you decide, hey, this sounds fun, I'm going to go create a login. It will create your login and then search through the logs and give you credit for anything that you have done. Yeah, they are pretty good. Yes, you should because you do that.
Have people.
Yes. Yeah.
But there's two of us considered frequency around one.
Nope. No, there's no real watering holes, just everybody, it's just basically, so the website, like I said, the website is really useful. You are able to schedule activations. So yeah, here's my activate, these are my activation. Here's my hunter's log. So you see a lot of the parks, it automatically pick those all up. So I'm trying to find, so yeah, you can add a spot. So if you were listening to something, you'll get this a lot. Secure POTA, hey, KD8OOB, hey, KD8OOB, thanks a lot, I'm at blah, 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 blah. Can you please spot me? I don't have internet. Go over there, add a spot. It will then ask you to put in your call sign, their call sign, frequency in kilohertz, park reference, and then any comments. QRP. This guy needs 2 more to get his kilo. Any type of comment like that. The guy's working late shift. He's getting bit of my mosquitoes. Whatever keeps you fun things you may want to put in. You do have to have a login though to be able to add a spot. Just think anonymous of that spot. You can add an activation for yourself and you can schedule it. So if you do know the park you're going to does not have internet, you can put in here that you're going to activate this park at this time. It doesn't ask for the frequency, but it'll ask for the frequency. You just put in the band. You can just put in the band and you'll be fine. And just go out there and start calling CQ POTA, and it will pop up, at least showing that there is a scheduled activation there. As soon as somebody sees you and contacts you, they can then update it with the more specific information. Like I said, the website's fantastic. Yeah.
Not clear. So if you're just making contact, if you do not have a login on a date, uploading your POTA, then the POTA activator gives no credit for you.
If they're an activate, no, if you don't have a login and you're a hunter, they get credit. So that's where the gentleman agreement comes in. Because technically, I could go out there and I could fabricate data by putting all your call signs in there that don't have a hunter log, if you don't have a login on the site, and they'll give you the credit. Because it rather gives the credit in hopes that one day you do log in and see it. So that's where the gentleman agreement comes into play. Yeah, as an activator, you have to. As a hunter, you don't have to. Yeah.
I just want to make sure I'm understanding the fundamentals here. Hunters who operate exclusively outside of the parks, is that correct?
No.
Okay.
So the activator is the one who's in the park calling CQ.
Activate.
I'm sorry, the activator is the one in the park calling CQ. The hunter can be anywhere answering CQ, including a park.
And how does that relate to the park?
That is a park.
So park does not have to be 2 act. Yeah,
Well, that's where it kind of gets a little. I've done that before where I basically sat there in a park and heard somebody in a park and I've answered. And I just uploaded the one piece. I technically wasn't activating, I didn't get the 10, I wasn't intentionally out there working it, but. So, yeah, I mean, technically, park to park are two activators, but one is the hunter, one is the other. But again, that's just kind of semantics, it's not really key to how this works, you get the park to park, you both have to have logins. Because even if you claim, you can't claim park to park. You just don't claim it, you put in there what the other person's park was, and if they see the activation.
Can I interject something on that?
Yeah,
So if you could basically activate a park, like you were saying, you could sit in a park acting like a hunter, but you're activating a park.
right.
And it's good for people like me that have bad hearing, and it's difficult to maybe call CQ and pick people out of a pileup. Whereas if you're sitting in a park, I know from the spot page what their call sign is and where they're activating from, and I can sit there and just respond to them and get credit as an activator because I'm sitting in a park. So I mean, it's just a variation on the theme.
Thank you. You gave me the word I forgot, the spots. This is the list of spots. That's what I was trying to show you earlier. So yeah, as he said, you can just sit there and you're a hunter, but you're technically activating. It's just, again, it's semantics. It's who's on one side of the queue. So who's the one that is receiving the call?
Sorry, can you explain the spot?
Yes. So yeah, I'm going to do that right now. So we're going to take a look at who's on 40 meters right now. We're going to see who's on sideband. We're only going to look at the US right now. We don't want to see QRT. And the hunted means that whether you've already hunted them or not. So if you see them on the spot, you then hunt them, and you get the QSO and you spot them, it will then remove it from the list so you don't see them. That's what that is. So right now there are just two active on 40 Indiana and Georgia. These guys weren't active. They last heard 180 days ago. They were not.
And who added this data?
It depends. You can add the data for yourself. It's called self-spotting. If you have internet, you can self-spot yourself. You can schedule an activation, and then it will kind of put a pseudo spot out there. Or other people who hear you. I do that all the time, trying to be courteous. When I work somebody, I will put the spot out there. Again, because I would say, are they still active? They're 180 minutes ago. I highly doubt these are active. I'm not going to go hunt these guys. See if I can find. Oh, I know.
Doesn't look like I have, they were just right. Is there like a delay from when you sign up to when you go to a board to the thinking that you are?
There's a little bit. Yeah, I'm not sure why I'm not seeing any of it. Something doesn't seem right. Yeah, there's something wrong. These are all massively long last clips. But again, you get the picture. You can sort it by the time, or you can sort it by frequency. I have a tendency to sort by frequency because I will actually start at one end of the band and go on the band and kind of try to figure it out. But it's a great way to determine whether your antenna is working. You should go on these. Yeah, I'm not sure why I'm not seeing any spots right now. Yeah.
So with POTA, it's not frowned upon to spot yourself.
Oh no, it is encouraged. It is encouraged. Yeah.
Whereas in contests. Yeah.
Exactly. It's not a contest. I mean, it's really meant to they're trying to just get people on there. That's the big thing. And every time you talk to the forums, everybody always talks about how POTA has really lit up things. There's so many people out there. It's such a great community. And every year I've gone to Hambench and they've had a presentation, a bigger presentation. I mean, the presentation has been out the door. They had a small tent, they had a medium tent. I think they had 4 tents this year. They held it right outside the infield where they have the. They have swag. I mean, I have a flag But I have, one of the things I have is I have a flagpole that you roll your car onto and then raise up the flagpole. I'll put my antenna on there and I have a flag for it. I have a POTA flag. I don't have it with me, I have a POTA badge that I made up with them. I mean, they have it has become a very active sub-community with Indiana.
Form of influence with the same.
Yeah,
Do you find that the time to set? Well, if that's extension, that's the.
not necessarily because I have to actually get the antenna tuner out with the Wolf River coil.
You know, you use those little foil things that can take, it's a long amount of time to do that thing.
I have a tendency to cheat. I have a tuner that I usually drag along with me, so I get as near as I can because there are times when I'm like, you know what? I'm done trying to tune this damn coil. I'm just going to go and use the tuner and be done with
Yeah,
it.
you don't want to get close, but when field day, you might spend like an hour and find out full access is bad.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've had that happen before where I've gone out there and I forgot my coax. So I have a checklist I always go through beforehand because you don't want to. I mean, task site for me is literally 10 minutes. It's right outside of downtown. It's, you know, I thought about activating it over lunch, but the whole, okay, I got to drive up there. It should take me about 5-10 minutes because it's crosstown traffic through over the Rhine and Mount Auburn. The setup time, then make sure I want to get my 10, and then my teardown time and get back. So it's like, yeah, I've done activations after work where I've gone up there and said, you know what, my wife's off to dinner with a friend of hers. I'm going to go hang out and just. I've gone to a riverfront park and activated Lewis and Clark. I basically sat out there for about 3 hours until it got too dark. I actually have a bunch of things on. I have different lights and little glow in the dark things specifically for being able to see. In a flashlight, and it'll pick up just enough of the glow in the dark that I can pick it up and find it. Yeah.
Is there, I noticed that the point heating system operates on the Zulu time. Does that drive any sort of decisions at all?
For me, no. There are some people that it does because they're trying to get late shift and early shift awards. So before the late shift and early shift awards were based on the Zulu date. Then they decided to change it. It is now based on the time zone of the park because some people were always getting late shift awards because the park was in Zulu's late shift. But for them, that was the middle of the early evening, you know, when they're done with dinner. So they've since changed that. But it's only for getting awards. The only thing you have to watch out for is that technically there is when you cross over to the Zulu day, it's another day. And some people have gotten burned with that. They're like, well, I thought I had an activation on the one day, and I didn't get an activation because I had 6 on the one day and 7 on the other because it spanned, even though it was within 1 hour. Yeah. So
At some level, you must yourself be aware of what the UTC time is as it relates to law.
Absolutely.
but again, the only consideration is for activation purposes and for those specific things.
And 3FJP is not good logging program for POTA.
You can. I think people have. My problem with N3FJP is that it was PC based. I'll bring my PC if I'm doing FTA, but if I'm doing CW, I'm just bringing a talent. I don't want it to have the full.
What's the MTA sequence? How's that different?
All it does is just say CQ POTA. You just change it to say CQ POTA. And you technically don't have to, again, there's no specific exchange. So there's nothing stopping you from just calling CQ POTA. And then I have it set up so that it will put in my reference in the logs. But other people, the hunters that might be trying to do park to park, it doesn't matter. It's all about what they put in there and it matches the system matches stuff. So when I do FTA, I don't know that I'm really doing it. All I know is that somebody. Yeah, and I'll do that at home sometimes too. I'll go and see someone. Oh, I see that person out there. I'm trying to get 30 meters. Oh, look, there's a bunch of POTAs out in 30 meters. I'm just going to jump out there. You'll see CQ POTA. You'll see it out there. I do. Yep.
But it doesn't matter if you don't see what part they are, it'll call that match to that.
Right. But one of the things I will do is I will go spot myself and say in the comments, FTA, they'll say digital. I'll say FTA And then I'll say then the Marco thinks it's in there. So if I see somebody that talks to me, some of the apps, like I can log both FT8 log and the M4K photo log. The photo log will tell me if that person's activated. If they have a spot in their activated part, it will let me. But that's my own personal preference. I have to. Anything else? All right, go out there and activate a part.